So you want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh.
Pledge allegiance
to
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chief Gabrielson was going to do the oath of office for Brian, Kip, and Chris.
If you would all raise your right hand, and I'm going to chop this up a little bit because I hate when people read way too long. So I state your name.
I, Brian Goodyear,
Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Loveland,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Loveland,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of Law and Ordinance Committee member,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of Law and Ordinance Committee member,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
If you just sign those, I'll give those to Miss. Do you need a pen?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure there's probably one of those. I could probably find one in this drawer. Sir? Can we talk to Mom? All right, let's do that. All right, that's it.
I'll hold that until we get to there. And then, the first meeting of the year, we would do election of officers. Do I have a motion for a chairperson? Unfortunately, we're in a position where we either proceed with election officers or we just table the meeting because we really wouldn't be able to take any action.
Well, if I can interject, I mean, have we heard from Pete? I mean,
Pete, it got a new job. He's working till 8 most of the evenings of the week. That is going to change. He was going to come down and meet with me, get sworn in, go over whatever you guys do, just general direction on the noise ordinance, and then he anticipated being able to pick up from there.
and then we expected Ted to be here too.
So what happened last week is we knew we didn't have Pete, and then we lost Ted, and Chris and I felt, and Ted while on the phone, we felt that it was best to have more than just 3 people. So we moved the meeting, but this night did work for him. That's why we were pretty set on this night. I actually tried to call all of you.
We don't, just for clarification, we don't have to necessarily table the meeting because we're not looking for any action tonight anyways.
No, I really what we wanted to do was get you sworn in, get the officers elected, and get some general direction. Listen to open forum and get some general direction so we can start to prepare a mock. But with that, to stay in on agenda, do you have a motion? Is there a motion for a chairperson?
I think Kip and I were both going to nominate
You can do that.
Ted. Can we do it in his absence?
Yes.
I mean, Ted was the chairperson before.
Yes.
I think we're all going to.
Yes. Do I hear us?
I'll move to.
Yep. And second.
Second in absentia.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now for basically who will run the meeting tonight, is there a motion for a vice chair?
I move to appoint Brian Goodyear.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then for the position nobody wants, that's always good to give to an engineer.
Yeah.
Is there a motion for a secretary?
I make a motion that Kip Ping be elected secretary.
Well, I'll second that. Heartbeat.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, impeccable handwriting. Okay. And then
Let the record show.
Brian, you are
I
now
did not say
you are
aye.
now running the meeting as vice chair. So I'm done.
Well, I think
Or I'm finished.
next item on the agenda is open forum. Sharon Scovanner.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Sharon Scovanner. I live at 155 Overlook Drive, approximately 0.7 miles from downtown Loveland. I recently attended a resident forum hosted by council members Hazel Baker and Hamlin, where the issue of uncontrolled noise was brought up by several residents. Our neighborhood has been subject to excessive noise coming from downtown for some time, especially from Bishop's, where amplified music is played regularly from an elevated deck. The issue came to a head last July when I initially reached out to Councilman Goodyear to schedule a meeting. A city-sponsored Elvis concert was so loud that you could clearly hear every word to every song in our neighborhood. Despite my best efforts, a meeting has not yet taken place, but I'm hopeful that we can schedule a meeting in the near future. Additionally, to understand the scope of the problem, about 10 weeks ago, I reached out to the police chief requesting records pertaining to noise complaints and citations. Unfortunately, those records have yet to be provided, but I believe that they are an important component to study as we look for solutions. The number of events and businesses using amplified sound downtown has been steadily increasing in recent years. Mr. Kennedy has said numerous times that he expects the new amphitheater to be a regional music venue. We have an historic residential district just feet from Nisbet that everybody agrees is important to preserve. Did those residents sign up to live next door to a riverbend when they moved to Loveland? Would any of you want to live right next door to that? I doubt it. As to the packet provided tonight, while it might be interesting to see what regulations other communities have, to rely on that is to negate what is unique and good about Loveland. The everyone else does it reasoning should be resisted to allow for an ordinance that serves the best interest of Loveland. I believe that an effective noise ordinance is one that, 1, protects the community from uncontrolled noise. Excessive noise can cause hearing loss, hypertension, heart disease, sleep disruption, and mental health issues. The WHO considers sound above 65 decibels to be noise pollution and identifies levels above 75 as harmful to one's health. US EPA says that keeping noise below 70 decibels is required to prevent hearing loss. I feel for the employees and guests who are subject to the noise above these levels. Number 2, is measurable and easily enforced by law enforcement. Law enforcement should have the tools readily available to easily measure decibel levels. Number 3, can be self-regulated at the source. If the ordinance sets a decibel standard that is measured at the source, it would be easy for businesses to self-regulate, putting less pressure on law enforcement. Number 4, is applied to everyone equally, with few exceptions, especially when voluntary amplified sound is used. Recently, an ordinance came before council that would exempt the city from almost all city ordinances. This was met with fierce opposition from residents, several current council members, and 3 previous council members. As a matter of fairness, exemption from any noise ordinance should be very limited for things like parades or fireworks. Inconsistent application is not only arbitrary and capricious, but can significantly erode public trust and invites equal protection challenges. When people perceive that the rules are not enforced uniformly, they may feel justified in ignoring them, leading to an increase in violations. Effective governance is one that holds itself to equal or higher standards, one that leads by example. I agree with Mr. Kennedy in that this problem can best be solved by collaborating with effective residents, council and staff, business owners, law enforcement, and possibly experts like sound engineers and audiologists. While I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight, A 5-minute presentation here does not allow for the type of discussion and collaboration needed to develop an ordinance that first serves the residents, but still allows for reasonable business and city activity. I look forward to being an active participant in deeper conversations needed to solve this important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I don't believe we have any minutes. Right?
No.
We have no old business. So we'll move on to new business. And Mr. Kennedy, you want to speak to the noise ordinance we're here to discuss?
So the existing, this was mostly to provide you the background information to show you not only what we sort of call the noise, but where it is in the zoning code, where it is in the motor vehicle section, and then the specific section regarding sound amplifying devices. And then to sort of provide you just sort of some background information. And I didn't really look, I wasn't looking for some that use decibels and those that don't. I was just looking for communities that I thought were somewhat representative. I try not to go too far away. I did go to Kettering. Chief is from Kettering, and he had told me that they had a good one. And then I used some other samples that we presented. And much like Chris knows and Brian knows, much like we did with the lighting ordinance, it took quite a while. This isn't going to be done anytime soon. This is going to take some time for us to really dig into it and get as much input as we can. But I guess I think there is some frustration with the decibels, and I think Sharon pointed out some reasons why it works, but then there's some issues with it in terms of where they're standing, what was happening at the same time, so on and so forth. And so I was just trying to come up with a noise ordinance that was enforceable, didn't slam down our businesses, but also was somewhat sensitive to those people that live within that circle. That Sharon lives in that circle, Main Street's that circle, Park, Ohio. I mean, that circle is, and everyone would know that that all the future growth in the downtown district is probably going to be a mix of commercial and residential. By no means does anyone think that Loveland Station was the last residential development in and around Loveland. I would anticipate. I mean, I always said there was a time when I first got here that the Bible Believer property was going to be turned into something just you wouldn't believe what they had planned. It was the family from Cincinnati. So those kind of things are happening. So that's what I was just trying to find a path where we could come up with something. It's not going to make everyone happy, but I would certainly think you get as much resident input. You can ask some of the downtown business owners to come in. I think the more they know that there might be some changes, the better, because we're not here to. So that was really it. I guess I would think. I thought, I'm being very honest, I thought we would probably lean away from the decibels as the sample and try to come up with something that is called, I think they just call it, I don't know, Chief, do they call it reasonableness? Or
Yeah, that's reasonable standard, yes.
yeah. And maybe that can be effective. I don't know. So I just wanted the Chief to be here if you had any questions.
I do have a couple of background for preliminary type questions, I guess. Do we know, first, has anybody measured the decibel level of, for example, the Elvis concert and things of that nature that's going on with their bishops, or some of the stuff that happened to Hops and Bears, that kind of thing? And the Cappy's, I imagine, has a similar issue.
That specific one, no. We have done some sampling Others, sound measuring is as simple as just going out with a device, though. There's a lot that goes into it. There's ambient noise measure that need to be done. There's, eliminating if a loud car comes by that adds to it. So it's not as simple as just, and the phone apps that people tend to use are not admissible in court.
Sure.
So the sound measuring is much more difficult than it is. It's not just as simple as taking a meter out there, getting a reading and saying, okay, this person's violating the ordinance.
Is it something that can be done before we embark on deciding whether or not we're going to set decibel levels or use a reasonable standard?
We certainly could do that. I would obviously recommend if we were to do that, we would actually hire somebody to do that, somebody that's actually trained in. Again,
Cost.
There would be a cost. And just to give you an example, the 50 to 55 decibels that our ordinance currently says, we're probably talking at about 50 to 55 decibels right now.
Yeah, that's pretty low
So,
for business.
are you done? I'm sorry, Chris.
Well, the only other question I had then, when we're talking about what's happening now, do we have a handle on whether it's an enforcement issue at the moment, or is it a weakness in the regulations issue, or is it a combination of both?
So this ordinance is a complaint-driven ordinance. Our officers don't drive around with their windows down and listen for music. It's complaint-driven. When someone calls, we will respond. We did, as Ms. Scovanner talked about over the last 2 summers, work with Bishop's Quarter to get the noise down. We talked with them. I know they actually did buy some equipment to measure noise. If an officer went out there and talked to them, hey, you need to lower it, that they would respond to that and lower it. That we look to gain compliance with everything. We don't just go out and issue citations.
Sure.
So we had lengthy meetings with them, multiple meetings with them, and we look to gain compliance. The vast majority of our noise complaints are not from downtown. They're from, my neighbors playing a radio too loud or a TV too loud.
Or dogs?
Or, yes.
My neighbors have some dogs. I'd like to talk to them. Anyway, that's all the questions I have.
So, Chief, the question I would have is, obviously, we're kind of stepping back a 30,000-foot view right now and trying to decide what path is best. You're the one that has the kind of hands-on experience on a daily basis and trying to deal with these issues. It sounds like to me what you're getting at is that the structure of using decibel levels as kind of a measurement of a violation is an issue for enforcement. It's difficult to enforce. Is that what I'm hearing?
The way it's presently written, yes. It says that we can measure, which we have something to go measure. But again, it's not as simple as just taking a single measurement. There needs to be time involved, again, because you need to measure ambient noise. Is it, because sound is cumulative. So it's when a passing car can increase that. A radio or a loud TV from your neighbor can increase that. It doesn't just measure the loudest noise that's out there. It's everything that's out there when you're taking a measurement. So we can't simply go out and take a single measurement from somebody and enforce our current ordinance. We would actually have to do a much longer study. We could, but I think as an attorney in the room, you would know that they would have a very good defense when they said, well, how did you measure this? Well, we took a single reading and that was it. I think when you look at our current ordinance, there's one that has a reasonable standard, and then there's one that has the decibel level. So you've got some inconsistency there. So in one case, it's a reasonableness. In another case, it's dedicated to specific decibel levels. So I think there's some inconsistency between the two. So depending on which ordinance we're actually going to apply to somebody, the elements would be slightly different, or the proof for it would be slightly different. So I would like to see that cleared up so that there isn't that inconsistency.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry. Then, having said that, I mean, obviously, you have to kind of pick a path, like I said, from the day-to-day operation of the police department trying to enforce an ordinance like this in a way that's most effective to help residents and businesses. What do you think is the most effective way to do it?
I truly believe in having worked in a jurisdiction that had a reasonableness. When you have the ability to go out for an officer, we get a complaint, an officer goes out, they're listening to it. the officer agrees with the person that this is unreasonable. Now you have the officer's opinion, you have, including body cam, you then have the complainant that is there. That is much more compelling evidence than someone that's just taking a single reading off of a phone and saying, you know, this was 60 decibels when the limit was 55. So from in the past, in enforcing this in the past, a reasonable standard was much more, because anybody that does watch the video, listen to it, listen to the testimony of a complainant, especially when you have multiple complainants, that's much more compelling to a magistrate or a judge than just a single number on a page.
Did you ever see any issues with the thing that came to my mind when you were mentioning that was the old thing about freedom of speech, and then you have the Supreme Court saying, well, yeah, but you can't yell fire in a theater. You know, that can result in a lot more stuff being driven into than it's everything has to go to court for a decision on everything. When you were in that situation, did a lot of those cases where there were complaints, did people elevate it, or did most of them just stay with the officer said what they said and said, you need to stop doing this, and that kind of solved it? Or did it kind of push it then to another level?
The vast majority of them were settled through compliance, when an officer would come out and describe. And there are a number of ways, again, whether you're talking with outside, you know, specific to the ordinance in Kettering, it was actually, you know, that after a certain hour, it had to be contained within the building. So you couldn't have the outside noise, amplified noise after a specific hour. It all had to be contained within the building. So contained within the building, close the doors. That tended to eliminate the issue. There were only a few instances where a business would continuously violate it, where it would turn into a violation being issued against them. So the vast majority of businesses, and that goes the same thing here. The vast majority of businesses here want to work with us when we have sat down and talked with them.
And in that, I guess, with so it was in your experience there, it was more businesses that were the issue, or I mean, there's always going to be the dog next door, or you know, that kind of thing too. But was it mainly businesses that kind of drove a lot of that complaint?
So you do need to. Since primarily, you know, the focus and what generated this was our business, the noises being generated by our businesses. The noise ordinance that we currently use in our criminal code for a loud party, a barking dog, you know, things like that, that's the unreasonableness standard. Those are almost always when an officer goes out. If the person doesn't comply, we issue a citation. We've got a complainant, we have the officer there, and we issue the citation. Those are remedied very, very quickly. When we're applying what is the 117503, the zoning code, which is primarily for commercial, where we're measuring decibel levels, that's where that inconsistency is in there. It makes it much more difficult for us to enforce.
You know, it's interesting. What comes to my mind, this is a little bit of an aside, but kind of maybe an analogous situation is when you're talking about, I mean, it's much more sophisticated, but, you know, radar and lasers to detect speed. The way that you're able to go in court and have those devices relied upon by the court is when you bring a new one online, you actually have to go to court, have a hearing, and prove to a judge that this is a reliable device. And so there's a whole process that goes with that. And then going forward from there, it's been established that this device works in a way that's appropriate. And as long as you can have testimony that's working properly on the day that you caught somebody speeding, then that device is accepted by that court. And I guess maybe the concern that I'm hearing, and it makes sense, is the devices that exist, number one, and then the method that you have to use to measure the sound are not ever going to reach that level where it's just going to be accepted that outcome is over X amount of decibels, which I'm assuming then makes it prosecute that case in court.
The only way I can see where is if it, you know, as you're familiar with, like with a speed limit, it's if you're more than 25 miles and over the speed limit, you're per se,
Right.
you know, reckless driving. This would be the same way. If you are over a specific decibel level, we can isolate it to you as the source, where we potentially you could have a per se violation in there that if it's over this, it's automatically unreasonable and we can issue a citation. It takes the long-term measuring that would need to be done to determine if the person or the source of it is actually the only noise that's being captured by the meter.
Right.
We know we need to clean it up. I mean, look at 1175. I mean, it's really supposed to be. It's sort of being enforced by the zoning administrator. If you read it,
It's yes.
And the scattering. It does appear that many communities that have updated them sort of clean up them into one nice section. And don't really know that the primary one, the decibel one, should be in the zoning code. And it says at the discretion of the zoning administrator when it's clearly enforced by the police department. If somebody really wanted to get savvy who received a violation, they would be able to, wouldn't take much to say. We know we need to clean up getting it organized. It's just whether or not we go all in on reasonableness, we really clean this up. We hit hard with strong penalties because if when you read back through them tonight, you read the penalty section of each, it would appear that some use different standards than just, okay, it's a misdemeanor, do it again. It's a third. I don't know the degrees like you guys do, but I mean, it clearly works, like he said, with with dogs and the residentials. I can see where it's very difficult in the downtown, but I mean, you certainly have the right to table it as it is, to get Ted here, to get his insight, and to get a little more information. Sharon will know. Well, she knows when the meetings are held, and I mean, I would just, as with Ted, I would love to get some input from Ted, just because as a longtime council member and a longtime resident, and be interesting to see which direction before we start trying to put together a mock.
Right.
And if you do want a specialist to do anything, we had a specialist help us with the entire lighting ordinance, Bob Parks. So it is not outside of the realm of thought that if you feel that you want more information or if you want more samples, there's tons more samples. Milford is currently rewriting theirs. That's why I didn't go down there. You would be looking at one that is getting ready to be rewritten. So Ben's like, don't use us. We don't like ours. And we're changing it. But what do you think, Brian?
I mean, I'm happy to wait and have Ted give input as well. I mean, from my perspective, I'll simply say that what I would like to see happen is, to me, what the chief has to say and what the police department have to say about the way this has to be enforced means a lot, because we need to have a code that is effective and that can deal with problems quickly and effectively. And it sounds like to me right now we don't have that. So whatever form that takes, but I'm happy to table the discussion for right now and then come back another day in the
relatively
near future
soon,
and have Ted here and see where we go with it.
Relatively soon.
Yeah.
I don't like to let things go on.
No,
I mean,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
if we could meet within the next couple weeks, Chris has got some zoning stuff we need to work around. But these 6 o'clock, if these work for you, that's really nice for Chris and I.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Chris?
Is Pete going to be able to be here or not?
I hope so. I mean, he's working till 8, so we're not starting our meetings at 8:50.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna follow up, meet with him, and then ultimately what we do is we bring in the big screen. And
Right.
We start massaging with it. And do you have one particular officer, Mike, that you feel is the most involved in the enforcement that we could? No, okay, they all do it.
Dave, I'd be interested in also before we meet again, we do have the examples of the municipalities that you provided us, but I'd like to know why Milford doesn't like theirs.
I'll talk to
What are
Ben.
the problems that they've encountered? That'd be something for us to
Yep. I'll reach out to.
head off at the pass,
Okay, I'll talk to Ben. That was his answer when I called him.
Yeah.
It just seemed like Mason's was pretty comprehensive. I mean, we would factor in, the ones that factor in waste, garbage trucks. They obviously, we're dealing with garbage trucks. Those that we're never going to stop a train and give him a ticket when he goes through town, especially with portions of it being in a quiet zone. That would be pretty laughing if you know what we went through to get that quiet zone. But again, like Sharon said, certainly we're not going to sit there and we're dealing with fireworks and I'll reach out to Ben and
I have another suggestion. A big part of our problem here in downtown is going to be the music venues. That's going to be probably the biggest part of it periodically, I think, is, you've got the amphitheater and you've got cap. So maybe we look at municipalities who have similar facilities. Like Hamilton, I know, has a concert venue, kind of like what we were thinking about with the amphitheater. And they do a lot of concerts all summer long. They do concerts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
okay.
And they also have periodically up throughout the year all kinds of stuff going on. So is that a place?
Yeah, because Kettering, what did you have? Freeze.
Phrase.
They, you can see some references in there in Kettering to. Is that like a venue? Like I've never been.
A 4,500 seat venue. They hold probably 30 to 40 outdoor concerts a year.
Kettering does that?
Yes.
Kettering, you can see that they reference a specific.
Right. Actually, I think most, at least the examples we have, and then of course, our own kind of hodgepodge right now does the same thing. But most of these, actually, all of the municipalities you gave us examples for, exempt amphitheaters or public, city events or whatever from their noise restrictions. So I think they either say city events, or some of them say amphitheater because they have an amphitheater in their jurisdiction. But, I know that probably the biggest issue on a day-to-day basis, there's actually, I live not far from Sharon. So Sharon and I live in the Warren County portion of Loveland, and we kind of live in this area where the sound kind of travels up towards us. And probably the two things I notice the most personally is Bishop's Quarter, and then something we can't do anything about. But there's a venue, a wedding venue that I think is in Hamilton Township that's just skirts on the edge of Loveland, and they're super loud. Yeah, but Bishop's Quarter, I know that's been the real struggle because they play that music on top of, they're on top of their third floor there. And if you think about kind of going up, towards the work, it just goes straight there. So, to me, I know this has been an issue going on for some time. And I'm not saying that Bishop's Quarter is not trying to cooperate, and I'm not saying that's not something that they're trying to fix. But like I said, all I would hope for is something that allows officers to quickly and effectively deal with a problem, and when they get to court, they're able to successfully prosecute those cases. Because in my mind, it's not just you start with whether it be like a minor misdemeanor, M4, or whatever, and then of course you elevate as you get convictions. And so the only way you can ever get someone that just won't comply to have some serious potential penalties is if you have the ability to walk in court and get a conviction, And so I think that's.
I was just wondering, and maybe he would or maybe he wouldn't, but I would be more than happy to, at some point when you deem worthy, to extend an invitation to Kevin Maloff and just say, Kevin, we're not shooting on you, but you're a good example. You're a good example. You own multiple places. Would you want to come in? And I would anticipate he would probably say sure.
Yeah.
Don't you think it would be beneficial to ask Kevin?
Well, I think it would, because the best thing to do, and as Sharon said earlier, I mean, to me, the best way that you get cooperation is have buy-in from everybody, right? And if people feel like something's being put upon them, then they respond that way. If they feel like they're a part of the process, then they respond differently. So I think that probably would be a good idea.
I'll shoot him an email. Then if you want to,
Sure.
I'll circle some dates around to everybody.
So can someone make a motion to table the discussion at this point?
I'll move to table the discussion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
That motion
And
be done.
then the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.